moment?
Like Andre already said, my name is Colin Volrath. I am a level designer here at Noto. I've been uh, in the industry for on and off roughly 15 years. And I the bulk of that time was spent working at Blizzard Entertainment as a level designer,
The voices still
working
don't match
on
all that
World of
great.
Warcraft, building pretty much anything and everything that um, that game kind of has to offer, from dungeon design to zone design, raids, arenas, PvP related things, battlegrounds, uh, major city type stuff, you name it. Um, and I was there for a little over 8 years, 8 years. I was trying to do the math the other day.
But which zones
Before
was he a
that,
part of, right?
I cut my teeth mostly doing freelance work, working
Stranglethorn
on
Vale?
FPS
Solid
shooter type
thumbs
games,
up. The
predominantly Counter
Barons?
Strike and Counter Strike Source, and doing freelance work. Um, that was kind of what I did before I kind of landed my dream job at Blizzard, doing LD there. And then I made the jump over to Noto and kind of got the whole world building level design aspect going, as sort of one of the sort of original members of the team. I've been here, yeah, we're coming up on 4 years. It's crazy. Um, doing
Dang, I didn't
all
even
the
know Noto
LD
had been
related
around for
things to
4
kind of get
years.
the game jump started from there. And yeah, I mean that's kind of my short and sweet version of me.
I mean, Greenwood
Awesome.
is such a good
Thank you about
map.
that. Now we have Tessa. You want to talk to us about yourself a bit?
Sure. Similar to Colin, I've been in the industry for quite a while. I think this will be my 17th year. And I've dabbled in level design, systems, content. I've pretty much handled a little bit in every aspect of design through my career. And I pretty much got my start at a place, Cheyenne Mountain. That's where we tried to do the Stargate MMO, and that was a whole debacle. But I worked at Ascendant. I worked at 2K, which was my dream studio because I was a big Bioshock fan, and worked on XCOM, which was great. And I really do love my 2K family. And worked at Kabam, worked on Star Wars, worked at Gazillion, worked on Marvel Heroes, Spirit Lords. I've been in a mishmash of multiple different types,
Man, she's been around the block.
console to mobile to pretty much everything. Worked on
Star
third
Wars
person action
Uprising.
adventure,
Never
first
even
person
heard of that game.
shooters. So it's been a super cool ride, honestly, to work in the industry. Met a lot of great folks.
Yeah. So awesome. Both are
Man,
level
look how good
designers,
those
very
Greenwood
based. And I think it shows
screenshots
in
look
the
like.
level design of the
That
map.
one's so
and
good.
For this one, they got to try something
Beautiful.
very different from Greenwood, which is big, open map. I mean, it has a little bit of everything. It has underground, it has tight places, big open spaces. But for this one, it was a completely different environment. So I'll just let you guys talk about the designing a dungeon. What was that like?
Uh, Very different than Greenwood. A lot of different challenges that we had to sort of figure out. Um, uh, when we started this, I don't know how clear. Like we always do, like this. I like to do these. They're like a whiteboard jam. And these are just like throw ideas on a wall. And we do this with the whole team.
My goodness.
And
can we get a zoom in on the
one of
whiteboard,
the
please?
kind of the main goals when we did this map is it needs to feel different than Greenwood, right?
Yo, we got to play test it. It definitely looks different than Greenwood. Yo, did the Twitch stream break?
Tested it. A lot of PvP engagements kind of spinning up, lots of third party and stuff, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But we also wanted to play with the verticality of the map. We wanted to make sure that the navigation on the map was clear. So we pushed things like theming, wings, and things like that, various flavor things. And those things are intentional, and they're intended to drive navigation, so you don't get lost, because it's very easy to get lost.
All right, what do we
in
miss?
All interior map where
Controlled
you're constantly
chaos,
kind of enclosed by
all
walls on all four sides.
Interior themed,
Claustrophobic vibe.
verticality.
Can create a
yeah, we have,
anxiety about
or I
where
have
going.
tested the map, and it has
I
multiple
do
levels.
That was kind
remember.
of our.
I was just gonna say, I do
Like
remember,
holes in the floor you can jump down.
I remember in the start when we were playtesting this map and it was just the blockout phase. Like a lot of people's feedback was they were getting lost in it because, like you said, a lot of the corridors kind of
We
it's a
were getting
corridor, and it
lost
was a new
getting
map
started.
for us, so we were getting lost a lot. So actually, I had this as a question, but you pre-answered it. Like, how would the player kind of know where they are and
But
orient themselves?
the art
in
path
space?
haven't
But
went
you
through
kind of
yet.
answered that by the various
Yeah,
elements.
Or the
and,
art pass hadn't went through when
also
we tested it.
on the
So
art
hopefully
team
they really do a
specifically,
good
like
job of
they've
theming
done
the
a really good
wings.
job of using lighting as you play through this map. Right, it's kind of like a cake, right? Like your top layer of the cake has more natural light poking through with like sun shafts and more yellow tones and natural lighting kind of coming through, so you kind of know like, oh, okay, I'm on the top floor of the map, there's roots kind of like cracking through and that kind of stuff, and then there's like an orange colored layer in the middle, and that's, and then the bottom layer kind of changes to this sort of skeleton necro-y green vibe, so you kind of know like, oh, okay, I'm on floor 3, floor 2, et cetera. And that was feedback from the team pretty early on of what if we tried, not only theming it with wings and like, this is the armory wing. This is, I'm just giving out random names, but like, this is the armory wing. This is the bell wing. This is the healing wing. Yada yada yada. Right. But then let's add lighting in as well to sort of double down on making the navigation clear.
Right. By the way, guys, let me know when to go to the next slide because I don't know. Just what's the code?
Yeah.
What's the code for?
I mean, I can. No, I'm. These other bullets. These are pretty. Some of these are in the old slide too. Of just, we still want to encourage exploration from our players in this map. We focus on theme and vibe, which I already touched on, and wings and all that kind of stuff. Hit on that
Class
too.
fantasy.
And then the class fantasy is still going to be, that's a pillar on the team. We want to make sure that we're hitting class fantasy so that how a warrior or a rogue or a hunter enters one of these rooms, it's going to feel very different. It should feel very different, especially in a close-quartered map, right? Like, and then the last part is loot, and this is something
versus
that
Sneaky Boy.
we didn't do in Greenwood because we only had the one map, but we want to start playing with taking things that are in Greenwood and making them more exclusive or more predominant in other maps. So like one that comes to mind is like grave moss, right? Like taking things like grave moss and putting it in the dungeon. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't spawn in Greenwood, but like we want it to kind of be like one of those things that's like, and there's a bunch of these, but to push people in and out of the map so they're not just going to the same place. They have to go if they want to,
they need to have
something like that in a large
resource
amount,
exclusivity to the dungeon to kind of make people want to play the harder map. They have to incentivize people to go there.
Yeah, right.
Whether that be unique resources, better resources.
We had a lot of powwows about like the different classes and how they'd function within those spaces, and I remember we were talking back and forth about like a lot of the hallway sizes and what feels good with two players in combat with each other, what feels good with different parties against each other. And I mean, I think you can atone to this more, Colin, but this map was definitely more precise. It was a lot more intricate, layout structure, and like a lot more questions that we had to ask that we didn't in Greenwood.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna go next slide. Is that okay?
Well, Greenwood,
and Colin
big and open. Oh my goodness! I forgot how spoiled we were with Greenwood. I went and tried out some other extraction games, and oh my goodness,
the big secrets.
We are spoiled with how good Greenwood is,
it's level design,
especially as like a starter map or the first map.
Season 1's coming soon, and these are some really old images. That's our ogre there in the in the top right.
Oh my god!
Correct?
Yeah.
That's our ogre 1.0, and he was skin colored.
Season 1 of legs.
It's kind of terrifying that he's skin colored, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we made the right call moving away from that one. And I see the early dungeon was a lot more open. It had like it wasn't underground.
Yeah.
Was the intent to not have it underground, or was that just like for level design so you could see what's happening in the map?
Yeah, so when we did the first version of this map, it's funny because like there's always this funny thing that happens on development teams is like the idea that we don't like ends up coming back around like a year later or whatever, and then it becomes an idea a second time, and then everyone's like, I love it. And this map kind of went through some of that. Like the first version of this map, as you can see in some of these really early, like the ones all on the right hand side of the slide, uh, the map was super vertical. Like the map was it was massive. Like you didn't get a lot of traffic from players, but it was very vertical. And then we did a second iteration, and we kind of crunched the map down and used a lot of the layout language that you see in Greenwood, like in the various crypts and those interior spaces. And then we got the complete opposite feedback, which is I hate being like crammed into a tiny room and I play a hunter or a priest and I'm miserable because I'm just getting dumpstered on by like, the warrior is just, smashing me into a corner and this sucks and I have nowhere to go. So we
They
did
found a
another
really
one
good
and
balance in the current iteration of the map.
we took a lot of that feedback from the team. There were some positives out of the second iteration, which was we got a lot of chaotic PvP going on. I remember it was just nonstop fights.
The current version has a lot of choke
But it
points,
lacked
but it also has lots of
thematic
wider
rings. It
areas for you
lacked
to post
a
up
little bit
if
of the
you're a
lighting
priest
that I
or a
talked about
hunter.
earlier wasn't really in. And it had verticality. That was the thing that people liked even in the first or the second version of this map. So we took those lessons, and then we took some of the lessons from the first one, and then we kind of mushed them into like, okay, let's bring back the bigger rooms, and then let's take some of the lessons from the second one and kind of combine them into um, you know, a third sort of amalgamation of an interior themed map. And then on that one, like we took a ton of lessons, like I said, from the first. Are we calling it season 1, season 0? What do we call the first season?
0, I guess.
I hear different numbers. Is it 0? Okay. We took a ton of lessons from the first season of the game, of watching people play the game on Twitch, and
I love when devs
our
don't know
player
what
feedback
season
was
they're in.
huge.
They're
The play test that
far
we
in the
did, where
sauce.
everybody played through this, and just watching how everybody played, watching how many of them played Hunter and had a great time. I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be just Hunter frustration, and they're all playing Hunter and having a great time. I was not expecting that, so that was really interesting to see play out. And then the last bullet here is talking about bosses, and this is still totally up in the air. But like one of the things we learned from Greenwood is put the map out and maybe don't put the boss out with the map, right? I'm not necessarily saying we are doing that, but that was kind of a lesson. So we may or may not play around with that. That's still TBD. Of let people explore the map, let people enjoy the map, let people play the map and learn where to go, and then we'll add, if we choose to, add a boss into the space.
Yeah, that's
if they launch.
Yeah.
If they hold off on adding another boss
fit a giant ogre in that
to make it better than Morthog was at launch, and even Morthog is right now.
Can't answer that question.
I can't ask you that.
Very worth.
I know.
Morthog is one of the most frustrating experiences in the game.
Mobs, right?
Not even the boss himself, just his layer and level design, and like
Undead Paladin, there it is.
The one entrance, everybody camps the entrance type thing. That just can't happen in the second map. Please, God, don't let that happen in the second map.
When at the same time we were doing, it was very, very early on, and at the same time we were doing like sound attenuation on footsteps on one of our first playtests, and everyone was saying, I am hearing footsteps anywhere I go, because you could hear people like above you, under you, everywhere you go. Like, am I getting paranoid here? Am I hearing voices? And I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember
that. Yep.
They said that the doorways block
see,
sound.
Oh, we get to see some
so
finished product here.
The more doors that are open, the more you can hear.
Hmm?
What am I looking at? Is this the same room?
Which makes sense, but also kind of crazy. That like opening a door will let you hear people,
I just call this the Jimmy Lowe room.
A hallway or two away, or above you, below you.
Yeah.
He did the drawing in the middle, and the left one is kind of the first iteration of the map, then the concept, then the second iteration, and then the one on the far right is kind of where it's at today. And then the bottom one, same thing. Like that one on the far left, bottom left is you know, it's the progression of going from block out to an artified room.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, so
makes
right
a big
here
difference when you add all the textures and lighting
to this
and all
one.
the art as well.
Yeah,
But
I mean the difference between I've seen games that look like this, but the game looking like this,
that was the biggest.
Yeah,
that looks
the
juicy.
Biggest feedback on that room was it was like this major central room in the map, and it needs to we needed to make it bigger and bigger to kind of allow for lots of interesting engagements between.
Yeah, there's like 4 different hallways, I think, maybe more, that enter this one room, and there's a giant beholder that floats in the center.
Piece, like a centerpiece of the map.
Oh, I guess this map down here kind of shows the different ones.
Oh, we have more.
The different entrances.
Oh wow, you're like showing a lot. Actually, we have some gameplay footage of people playing in this map during the Q&A, so you'll see a lot more of it in a second. Show gameplay. We will get there.
This room right here.
This is also kind of the same thing. It goes
the finalized version. I believe I got to play this. Lighting, the water reflections look so good.
And it's just, I like the statues we had.
I was a huge fan. It was probably the best looking thing in the playtest I got to play.
Screen cone.
Oh, you made that?
With the water reflections.
Yeah,
it looked so good.
That like 3 years ago, just for funsies.
That's beautiful. That should stay somewhere. That should be like a little secret somewhere, like a tiny little teapot.
That's funny. Starter statue.
No, these look
iteration.
Everybody knows
what it looks like now.
It's a statue.
I'm hoping there's a bit more color throughout the whole dungeon.
Looks good. And the water. I remember you adding the water as well. Yeah, these are very cool.
That classic blue.
Yeah. And then next we have
painful Max 255 blue color.
I remember you made water drops that were just cubes hovering in space. Like this is a drop of water.
The mobs we fought were significantly harder than the mobs in Greenwood.
Shows the intent.
It does, yeah. It has
the big spiders.
I wouldn't know what that is, but you see a bunch of drops. Like, okay, it's water. Water dripping from the ceiling. I get it. Let's talk about encounter theory. Mobs versus players, boss encounters. You want to talk a little bit about this? This slide right here.
Yeah, sure. I can go into that. So I did mainly the spawning for all the dungeon map and the encounters, and I feel like a lot of it is the spawning versus encounters, because people use those two words like interchangeably, and they do mean very different things. The spawning is just literally just putting down the spawns on the map and placements in accordance to the layout itself. And encounters are actually the structure of how you want the mobs to react to the player and vice versa as they enter a space, right?
Yeah.
And so with the crypt map, as Colin was mentioning, it is an interior space, so it's a lot more tight. There's more room, I would say, for mobs to be overwhelming, or it would be incredibly obvious that there's nothing there. Just because it is in such a smaller space, you don't have a lot of vista room, you don't have a lot of things to kind of look at with the layout in that sense. So, with encounters especially, with the crypt map, we wanted to make it a little bit more difficult, right? It's going to be more of a challenge for players and stuff like that. So how I usually kind of spawn and create the encounters within the map is I create like an initial spawning pass, is what I call it. And then that's really just building a baseline. And so what I do is I have a lot of the team play it, and then we have, some VIPs play it probably, and just kind of test it out to see what the feeling is. Because difficulties, especially with encounters, are really in two schools of thought. One is the encounters is just tough with a tough boss. It's just a mob that's incredibly a lot of hit points. It does abilities. It takes up a lot of the room and a lot of space. Has a lot of gap closing. And then you have the
animated armors
with making what we quote unquote call difficulty, and that's just a lot of mobs, and they don't have to be incredibly strong, but it could be a lot of normal mobs. It could just have like one elite in there, but
40 wolves chasing you down,
having to deal with. And so that's really kind of what I played a lot with this dungeon when I laid it out with the encounters is, well, how is a player entering the space? How are they going to feel coming across this mob? Is it a good enough space away? How much of the aggro range do I want the player to encounter and have them basically start the combat with that? How much of the space and the layout do I want the player to go into and substantiate and understand what the layout is and take the look, and so they know where their movements are going to have to be. You know, there are instances where I do surprise them with, like, hey, it's a mob. Oh my God, when you open a door. And those are really just trying to keep the player in their awareness state and keep them on their toes, because that's really what a lot of this game is about, is you want to have enough ebb and flow, especially with the encounters, and how the player kind of like has a little bit of downtime in between, because that's when you really want the player engagement to come across to the other PvP players, and to have the room in order to have enough PvE, but it not being overwhelming that you're just gonna like, haul a good quarter of the dungeon and then you encounter three players and you're like, oh well, okay.
Yeah.
I can't really deal with that, right? So I
It's
mean,
gonna
that's kind
happen.
of like the gist of how, yeah, it is. It is going to happen, but hopefully once you play this, it's going to be, a little bit, um, it's a little bit more controlled, I would say. And, we have a
The
lot more patrols and things like that I feel like would just bring the whole crypt to life, which is always my favorite part when I do any type of encounters, and especially with boss encounters, I always do like a step-by-step process of how
the
the player
playtest they
enters the
had us
space,
do,
and you have to evaluate
all the
every
doors were
step of
open.
that, right? So if it's a boss, they enter a space and,
So it was just constant
say
mob
that
after
the
mob
player
after
has to
mob.
activate a MacGuffin. Well, what does that look like? And what other departments are needed for that to work, right? So it's like, as you go through the step-by-step process of crafting these encounters in these spawning places, it's super important to just make sure that, it's more involved than I think a lot of people think. It's a lot more like cinematography kind of like structure when you're doing like higher level boss encounters, and I think a lot of players can, appreciate that, who are in this staging room. When you play, other games, it is a little bit more impactful, and it feels good because it feels like it's a heavy encounter. It feels like it's important. And that's really kind of like what I really want to try to keep rolling into the maps as we do them. So with this map, you're going to have a lot more elites, you're going to have a lot more specials. Of course, with that comes with, a cool amount of loot. And so I'm really interested to see like how the first kind of like the
What's a
the
special?
encounter play style goes. What's special? It's a version of like a mob that basically gives you
What is on
like
Colin's
gives you
screen?
better loot.
What
It's
is that?
harder. It's not as hard as like an elite, I would
Yeah,
say.
it's in between
Honestly, the
elite and
elites are
normal.
pretty tough.
What's back there?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's kind of like
animated armor is a
mid-step.
special,
The like
I think it's an
cross
elite.
racket.
right?
I would say it's a mini
It's a mini
boss.
boss, yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
Wraith and animated armor are really in
Yep.
the mini
Wraith
boss
and animated
category.
armor both feel really
And
well
we have
in the Greenwood
mostly, I
map.
think, elites. And I'm sure
Same with the
Skylar is
ogres.
up here. He can talk more about
The ogres are in
that and
cool
maybe
spots.
later meet the devs. But there's a lot. Most of our creatures do have elites and specials. I think very few don't have normals, actually. There's some really cool ones that you're gonna see in the crypt, also, which I'm
Crypts
excited for people to try out. Like
added a
some
shade
bluish
looking mob
creatures.
that could screech and
They're gonna be
deal
really cool.
AoE
And
damage.
and so it's also
Beholder looking
balancing all those new
dudes that
creatures in
shot eye
with what we
beams.
currently have as well. And so I really hope that as people play it, that's where my job with the encounters come in, is that we iterate and iterate and iterate, and
Different
to
versions of
make it feel
skeletons.
more, um,
There was like some
just
halberd
make it
looking
feel
dudes.
better in, like I said before, like the ebbs and
Several new
flows when
types
you're
of
encountering
spider.
players, because there might be certain
Some big boy
spaces that
spiders.
players are going to get to a lot faster, and I'm like, all right, well, I might have to scale down the spawning in that area. And so it's a constant kind of like evaluation of the space, if you will.
Yeah, very thorough explanation. Also, yes, can confirm we do have new creature types, and
it almost felt like
had to also figure out
90% of the mobs in the crypts
like
were were
it's all at the
elites.
same time. Creatures coming in, and you have to spawn them in a new environment. You have to playtest the creatures, but also creatures in the environment. So it's a lot of iteration.
Wondering what new mobs we're gonna get for nighttime
Greenwood. It sounds a lot more
though.
complicated doing it in a tight space than in a big open map, to me at least.
Well, they each have their pros and cons, because in open maps, you really do have to fill the space, and well, what does that look like? Because it just can't be a lot of geo in that, right? So open world, when you're doing spawning, technically, like, I feel like that actually ends up being in more cluster pools than it does in a more interior space or more like a crafted space or a space what I call is on rails, which is more story-driven games. So those are a little bit more, I feel like, more of like a continuous like kind of like flow rather than you kind of what I call them is hubs, like hubs in open world environments where you kind of come across a cluster and then you're battling through this like one specific area and then you have like a good buffer
Ooh,
room.
look at this little
So
warrior.
I think what a lot of people might not know is that as you're like spawning, you're literally testing all the time, and I feel like that's where so much of my time gets put into, is I'm constantly testing and seeing how it feels. Because you can put everything down and be like, yeah, this is good, but you don't really know until you're actually testing it constant, and
Yep.
and that's really how I go into spaces when I test it. Is like, all right, if I'm a player, how is engagement? How quick is it? Do I need it to be quicker? Do I need it to be, longer before they get into that? So it's a lot of like I always kind of like describe it as like a chess, and that's really what encounters are is what the mobs or the AI do to the player, and what does the player do in response, and it's just a constant give and take, and it's what I always really loved about it.
Yeah, I think you did a great job, and I can't wait for people to
Thank you.
to see it. Actually, they might see a little bit of it because on Twitch, at least, we will have a video playing on the background of a little bit of a playthrough. I don't know how much of the new creatures they'll get to see. They'll get to see a few probably. Also, I forgot.
Probably you'll see a few, yeah.
Yeah, you'll see a few, but you won't see them in their final stage because this was some playtests we've done a while back.
Don't worry, guys. The map does not look like this.
Art department would like you to know they're not finished in the video you're about to see.
It'd be hilarious though if they launched a map like this. It's like, just go at it, guys.
Everyone twice now. The final slide is the big announcement for next weekend. A brand new map. Technically, it is a brand new level. It is a castle deathmatch mode. It's a free-for-all. Colin, you want to talk more about this because this is kind of like your project.
I mean, you were doing all right. It's fine.
Yo, is this the right slide, buddy?
So we're taking the castle from Greenwood, and we're gonna do a spin on it for deathmatch mode. We're gonna try it out as solo first and see how that goes. I believe it's 15 spawns on the map, so it could get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. If that goes well and people like it, it's very easy to then we can just fold it in and do a team version, and see how that plays. But we're gonna start off with.
I love that they're testing new stuff
with the solo version.
Yeah, and
don't be afraid to test new stuff.
Multiple things in the future, perhaps. I'm not promising anything, but there have been ideas floating around of different game modes kind of diverging from this one. Right now, this is a very good way of just going in and just beating each other up. I don't think you can.
I had a lot of fun in the free-for-all mode last week, and that was just a 6-man.
You can put your feet
like
in the yeah. You can waltz in the water at ankle deep. But no, I think we collisioned it off just to make it easy.
Just put a kill volume there. If you touch the water, you die. It's a classic. That's a classic.
Still no release date for what?
That's right. Yeah, your super awesome classes that can't swim.
Release date for the Castle Deathmatch. We'll have it up. It says May 46th. I don't know about that one. It's gonna be up next weekend. So this weekend you'll have the brand new castle map. You get to play it. You get to try it out. Now, yeah, songs right there. He's gonna turn it on for Saturday. He says.
Nice.
15 players, and if you're asking about the other release date, we're not gonna disclose that right now, the new map, but it's coming soon. It's coming in May soon.
Coming soon. TM.
The game mode is gonna be a free-for-all deathmatch.
Free-for-all deathmatch in the castle,
and I believe it's the first person that reaches a certain number of kills wins.
Yeah,
that's what it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have the video of the one you were just playing?
Yeah, I'm doing the in the castle or in the crypt. I just have the crypt. Yeah, I'm playing it on Twitch right now. There it is. Finally playing it. And with this, so if you want to see the video, you go on to our Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Notorious Studios.
There's
I can't play it on Discord because I don't know how to do that. But yeah, there's a bunch of links in the chat. And
this is a link from our playtest.
If you guys have any questions for Colin, Tessa, yeah, just Colin, Tessa, not myself. You can raise your hand. I'll invite you on stage. Don't post your questions on the Twitch chat because I have only 2 monitors and I can't. My hands are tied. I can't read that.
I think this is Rakan.
So yeah, I'll invite some people.
Rakan or Kayvon,
right now.
maybe?
I also have a backlog of questions in case we need that. Mr. Pepechuga, I'm inviting you over right now. Hopefully. And I hope I don't have to. I'm gonna have to edit these frames again, aren't I? Well, until Mr. Pepechuga joins, I wanted to ask you guys. I wrote a question myself. I think I asked you this on the last.
He's got his own questions this week.
What is your favorite place on the new map? Your favorite spot? Something you worked on, or just the best looking or funny story or something? If you have any.
Are you going?
I know my favorite one.
Okay.
It's the one actually.
Go ahead.
It's the one that Colin did actually. It was one of your last iterations. It's the really cool it's a center room. It's one of the center, like what we call like the octagon rooms, and it's on the eastmost of the map. And it's the one that you have the ivy that was hanging down and the water dripping down. And it was such a really neat kind of play space with like the first story and the second story, and it had so many great aspects to it, and I had such a fun time just playing around with that map and spawning it in that particular area. I loved it. I thought it was like really cool and creative, and it's so funny because Colin's like, oh, I just did this like a day ago. I'm like, oh. It's like, I hate you.
Oh my god.
That's a good one. What about you, Colin?
That's the cistern.
I thought I turned all that off. I'm sorry, team.
It was the one that, yeah. I more so liked. It was nice to have a. We like when I was blocking out that room. We wanted to create a.
I love that they're learning how to do all this stuff.
Navigational
as we're doing it,
so,
like as these episodes are coming out.
Collects rainwater and yada yada yada. But I also
they got all
these channels. Like there are these
legacy guides down here pulled up.
See in a lot of medieval cities and things where they're meant to be like gutters back in the day. Yeah. So I took some of that language. I think
he's streaming some of his footage
to help guide players through the story a little bit to kind of connect up to it, and that language kind of carried through the map in a couple different spots, which I thought was kind of neat. It helped make that bottom part of the map a little more navigationally, like.
Or maybe so they were popping into our streams, right, when we were playing the playtest. Maybe they were recording what we were doing.
I'm so glad you did that. That helps a lot.
While we were playing.
Yeah, and
that would make sense.
So that room was called it was just like a square room. It had no identity, and every other room was kind of coming online, and it became like, the eyesore room where you're like, gosh, God, I hate this room, I hate this room, I hate this room, as all the other rooms were coming online, looking real nice. And then I was like, all right, let me just try some stuff, just to see what would work and what didn't, because it wasn't even concept, and it just kind of came to be.
So you guys like the same room?
Yeah, this in the video, they're literally in the room on Twitch right now.
They're
playing in that room.
There it is.
There's one of those giant freaking spiders.
We got Pepechuga in. He joined for the question. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Pepechuga.
He's not speaking. Do we just go next?
You gotta go next.
Pepechuga, you gotta fix your microphone. Move to audience. I banished him. I'm gonna get Goofy in.
My man done lost his chance.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Goofy.
Thank you for having me. Question I got from my chat was, is there going to be a boss in this map? And if so, can we have spoilers about it?
Goofy, you're the boss.
Goofy, they already said they weren't talking about the boss. That
Wait,
maybe
what?
they were going to add one.
I'm the boss?
I said you're the
Yeah,
boss.
later down the
when you join
road.
map.
You're now the boss.
Uh-oh.
You have to be
I don't
on
think
call
people are
all
gonna
the
be too
time.
afraid of me.
You gotta join with a
People
bunch
wanna
of
fight you.
legendaries.
I wonder if they're
so you can
going to
have
make
loot for
maps
them.
where they don't add bosses at some point. Feels
Alright,
like
so
every map
no
should have
spoilers
one.
just yet.
Yeah, I mean, no
Who wants to answer the
spoilers,
boss
but
question?
I think that it's, I don't want to say 100%. What's it gonna, 99%? Yeah, there probably is going to be a boss. Now, when that's going to drop, I have to be mum about that.
No
Yeah.
boss at launch, basically.
Yeah,
what it sounds
We
like.
have
Yeah.
a
But eventually,
location for where we kind of want
Yeah.
the boss in the map. Sort of like it's penciled in. In terms of what it is. Like Tessa said, it's still it's
just needs
changed.
more time to cook.
It's changed like 5 times.
Yeah.
To different things.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Pretty
Thank
sure it's
you.
not an ogre though.
Probably not.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
not
probably
a second
safely
ogre.
say it
Look at those. That's
probably
that ugly
won't be.
beholder looking thing.
Yeah.
Somebody told me it's not a beholder because it's just one giant
Thank you for the
eye,
question,
but
Mr. Goofy.
that's what I'm calling it.
Of course, thank you.
All right, we got Pepechuga. He's asking for one more chance.
Pepechuga.
I'll get him back.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
What
Yeah.
the hell? I swear I was doing everything on my. Jeez.
You
Well,
fixed it.
thank you for the chance, Amboni. Hi Tess. Hi
course.
Colin. Just wanted to thank you for
Hi.
this beautiful game. I love the leveling design that you done. I'm enamored with this game. It's the best thing I've seen in many years. And actually, my question was originally for Chris, but I guess he's not here today. And so I just keep it brief. Are you, in general, guys? I'm asking actually Amboni. Sorry here. Are you guys happy with the balancing overall of the characters and the classes? Are you planning
Bro,
massive
this is
rebalance
about
of the
level
classes when
in the dungeon.
the new wipe comes in? What are your plans with that? I'm a main warrior and I'm really unhappy. See ya. Thank you.
Oh, it's you're putting me on the spot here, Pepechuga, after all the chances. Sure, that's a very valid question. We hear it a lot, and the political correct answer here is, I mean, it's not even politically correct. It's the truth. We are making a lot of changes to a lot of classes.
They are.
That we have not.
Even
made
the play
public.
test
There's
a couple
bunch
weeks
of
ago
perks getting changed.
had all
Obviously,
kinds of
there's
changes.
There's a new class getting added. There's a bunch of
No
different
telling what the
changes
meta is going to
that
be
we have already made
when the
friendly
new
to,
map
like,
launches.
The hunter, the warrior has new skills. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say all these things because there's a bunch of like unannounced things. But the TLDR is definitely a lot of changes coming to classes, and I think we're having we do a decent job at least knowing what's broken and what's OP, and we are like smacking things.
We're good
over
at
the
knowing
head.
what we broke, guys.
But we're not like super happy with necessarily. We're not saying everything's perfectly balanced. It's never gonna be balanced. Balance is boring.
Uh-oh, Amboni.
That's
Uh-oh.
correct answer.
You kept it vague enough.
No,
I mean, it is. You know,
Am I a good politician?
with live games, you're always balancing. It's just more.
Chris is
importantly,
calling
like
him in the
we hear,
background.
a lot of our
Yo,
players
bro,
are
you
saying
can't
I
say
played a lot
that.
of WoW, okay? I know how to respond to these things.
Can't say that. It's
They
balanced.
don't say that part out loud, though.
Bro.
My bad.
All right, I'm gonna invite another person here.
World of Warcraft
Sorry, I
is one of
can't
the
see
worst
names
at
of people I'm
leaving
inviting,
just
that's why I don't
complete
say who I'm inviting,
outliers
but I just
alone.
don't know. I just see O. So, hello, Mr. O.
Hey, how's it going?
Yo.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Cool. Yeah, I just had a question about like specs and talents, and if you ever see, for example, like something I enjoyed about WoW specifically is like you could be a fire mage, frost mage, arcane, kind of like specializing.
He wants to know
within a
about
class. For
skill
example,
trees
like,
versus
maybe there's a rogue
we get
spec
us
that's
getting
more
all
heavily
the
focused on
points.
poison or shadow damage. Do you ever envision the talents kind of getting to that point where you're making decisions about?
I love
Hey,
that we
I'm
have
not
the
gonna
two
go
level
this path
designers
to get
here, and we're
strength in
asking
this aspect of
class
the class, or
questions.
just kind of like depth of the talents like that. And then I guess two-parter, if I could, like weapons. I'm a hunter guy. And like on the depth comment, like anything about adding like dash attacks to like the medium bow or some of the like some weapons like the death ball are super fun because they have.
Let me raise my hand.
Attacks, you can block, throw your ball. Right.
Clearly, we need actual level design questions around here.
Some of the staple kind of.
Where is it at?
Some of those weapons that might be missing.
Raise my hand.
Sorry for the long two-parter, but I wanted to ask those and never got on stage, so thought I'd rip them.
Yeah, that's more of a like class design question for Chris. Once again, again, some of the things you are asking for are internally being like changed. Not all of them. And as far as depth goes, the plan right now is to keep perks. We'll consolidate perks once again and like, well, first of all, fix perks that are broken, and also just change a bunch of them and give them more depth. But the plan is to have perks which are the kind of like the pseudo talents you get from picking what gear you want, and that would be kind of the depth of the customization of the class. That plus skills you select. So that's kind of the plan right now. Is that good? Nailed it?
Good job.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah.
Nailed
guys,
it.
Can we get some level design questions in here?
Exactly.
I mean, I understand.
Pick me.
Talking karaoke from Sung. I kind of want to know what that is.
Yeah, we'll get Song in here to sing some karaoke next.
Yeah, what was he gonna sing?
And we'll find out soon. Hey.
Hey, thanks for inviting me over. Level design question, not as specifically about the level design of a specific map, but just the flow between maps. Right now, everything is instanced in like singular. So Greenwood is Greenwood, allegedly Greenwood Night will be Greenwood Night, and then Crypt is Crypt. Do you guys have plans to connect the maps like kind of the way that extracts work in like games like Dark and Darker?
Good job, Dale.
Tarkov,
ask a real question.
Transitions between maps? Or are you guys going to maintain just single instance versions of the maps? Because I think that would be kind of cool, but storage space would be an issue, but that's something that could be addressed at a later time.
Right. It's not off the table. I mean, if you remember, Tarkov didn't do that until, God, what was that? It was like a year or two ago. It was pretty recent. Where they started. And I think we're kind of still in the, sort of crawl walk stage of this, where we want to just push maps out and get them into everybody's hands and then kind of see how the gameplay plays out from that, right? So there's there's technical aspects to how to connect those maps. What does that actually look like?
He's always trolling in Discord. I love when the devs troll people in Discord.
If you look at Tarkov, it's not just turning in
skill issue
and leaving, right? There's a transit system, there's a whole quest system that's tied around it. Then they added a marathon mode.
Are we stuck
into it? Now there's the labyrinth that's part of Shoreline. So Street, is another huge map that they made, right? But like that was like probably their 10th or 11th map by that point. So we want to kind of like, it's not like we're not against the idea of doing it. We would just have to figure out how can we make it work for our game, so that it feels like a legacy type mode that would actually make sense and drives player behavior and traffic. But right now it's like let's push out the other maps we've talked about. Like we've talked about doing a farm map, which is more of like a pre-Greenwood intro map. We're doing nighttime Greenwood.
Somebody's got an echo.
We want to get more maps into everybody's hands so that we can start to see how that plays with people, so that everyone's not just living Greenwood all day long, which does get boring after you're running the same map over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Like that's why we want to get more maps in everybody's hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crypt was awesome, by the way, guys. So thank you so much. It was really fun to like mess around in for like a few hours.
We loved having the playtest.
That's good. Awesome. Yeah, it looked like everybody was just having lots and lots of PvP, which is great.
Yeah, expect to die a lot in that map. That's what I learned. Or just be a rat.
Yeah.
Well, Rogue, very good on that map. Perfect class for that map. It's in theme as well. All right, we got a
Squeaky
brand
Frank.
new question here from a person whose name I can't see, but I did invite them on stage. Hello.
Oh, hi guys.
Hi.
Hello.
I had a question about like boss design, and what have you guys seen from the Morthog boss that you liked, that you disliked, that you plan on changing, and if the new boss will be like completely different, if Morthog's going to change a lot.
Why is there an echo?
Boss or just like level design overall, but
I mean, it's kind of like a two-parter in that sense. So we're working with AI design, and level design also kind of functions within that same space.
Can't be any of these people. Everybody's muted.
Because we are building the area where the boss lives. So I think more than anything, we learned a lot from Morthrog, and that encounter and the space and what needs we're going to have to make and what changes we're going to have to do to make it more just a little bit more like I want to say like constitutional. It's more, you know, it's right now it just kind of struggles with a couple things, but we're very aware of what those issues are. So we're actively trying to design like you know, ways that we can benefit the player in the space and have it fulfilling and still make it feel like it's a really great boss encounter. So it's something that we're really working with AI right now, with the design, particularly Skylar, and just trying to make sure that when we do the boss for the crypt, that we learn from those lessons that we did with Morthrog. And
oh my!
trying to
Look
make
at me. I'm next to Bronzy.
Something that's going to be very engaging for you guys. So it will most likely be very different. It's the structure, just because the space in general, you know, it's going to be the interior space. So that's going to be fun to kind of play around with, like how the boss is going to function within that, and what type of boss we're going to have. So more than anything, it was a really good kind of learning experience to see like what the pitfalls we'd have to avoid for boss encounters in the future.
Gotcha. All right, well, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you for the question. I think we have time for one more. So, Tessa, do you want to give me a number from 1 to 9, and I'll invite someone?
What? Let's go with lucky number 7.
Oh my God! It got bronze, not me. I was number 6.
It's Mr. Beard.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, so I had a question about the Night Greenwood map. I'm just curious about how the mobs are going to work on that map. Is it going to be, are we just going to see like a bunch of white wolves instead of black wolves? What's it going to look like, for mob wise?
We should get Skylar in here.
We're going to have some different mobs.
Have we shared any of that?
I don't think we've shared the new creatures.
Yeah, we haven't shared. It's still a work in process. But
Bronze, ask about leash range.
Mobs for that map yet. So I think we're gonna talk about that one probably at a later date, right, guys?
Yeah, there's a whole Meet the Devs, I think, that covers
okay.
the Nightwood,
right,
like from pretty much beginning to end, and what the philosophy around that is.
Yeah,
but there will be different mobs. There will be different mobs. I know that.
Oh, Meet the Devs about Greenwood Knights next week. Awesome.
It's not just like the same. It's not just Greenwood, and it's meant to be different. It should feel different. It should feel more dangerous than daytime Greenwood.
Yo, pop a second question, Bronze. Ask him about leash range.
For sure. And it's not just a white wolf. It's not just a skin recolor. It's like completely different monsters. So yeah. Thank you for the question. Oh yeah, next week we'll have a different panel.
He's gone.
And, we'll have level art, I think, talk about the Greenwood Knight. So then we might show all the new creatures maybe next week. I'm not sure what they want to show, but I think we're at time. It's been an hour. So thank you everybody. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for watching. Thank you Colin and Tessa for presenting and talking to everybody. If you guys want to stay and answer more questions, that's totally fine, but I gotta go. And
all right.
don't forget.
That's great. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming.
And I'll see you in the deathmatch, the castle deathmatch this weekend. Try it out. I'll see you there.
It's always great.
And good luck.
Seeing new devs.
Cool.
Well, not new devs, but new devs for me.
See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that wraps up the Meet the Devs episode.
Okay. And
see you guys next week.
You